Hi everybody, this is Lara, Pure Elliott Wave. I'm going to update my analysis from Litecoin for you. I think I updated this one 24th of May, so not that long ago. I was expecting a pullback to complete a second wave correction. There was a bit of a pullback, but it wasn't almost as deep as I expected, and it found support below the lower edge of this channel. Let's go back to the monthly chart and have a look at this. Oh, and for the YouTube subscribers, I'm sorry I haven't been giving you so much content, analysis content recently. We've had so much going on behind the scenes at Pure Elliott Wave. I've been incredibly busy. I've got a huge project that'll take me through to next year that I can't tell you about until next year, which I'm really excited about. It's literally years of work in the making, coming to fruition soon. I've got another online course to be released next week, so come back and have a look and see what that's about on Monday. I'm really excited for that. And I've had Jordan Marshall working with us full-time for his internship, so he's been doing a lot of work on various projects for us, and I've been managing that, as well as also continuing to train both Jordan and Jack. So I've been really busy behind the scenes, and I haven't had as much time to produce content for you guys. So I really wanted to push through and get this done today for you. This was on my list that you voted for, and I bumped it up the list a little bit because I also had a couple of my members request that I do this recently for you. So I'm overly really bullish on Litecoin. The short-term question is the pullback over? But for the long term, I'm expecting years of upward movement. My target for primary 3 is to expect that primary 3 within cycle 3 may exhibit the same ratio that primary 3 within cycle 1 did to its counterpart primary 1. So that's how I get the target of 8,943. Now my targets for these cryptocurrencies are kind of like I liken it to a stab in the dark with a rusty fish knife. It just is a general idea of where it could go. I don't, for my own purposes, and I bought Litecoin some time ago, I'm not going to use this target for my own investing purposes. What I'm going to be doing, and I'll do it here publicly on this channel with you, I'm going to be using classic analysis to identify the end of primary 3 and the end of cycle 3. And depending on where I am in my life stage, because I'm in my 50s now, and if it takes too long, I might exit at the end of primary 3, but if that happens sooner rather than later, then I may hold on for the end of cycle 3. So that depends on how old I am when that happens. So my monthly chart expects more upward movement. I'll leave the invalidation point down here at 40.34, but to be honest, it's a little bit too far away to be of use to anyone really, isn't it? Let's take a look at the weekly chart. I'm going to have a look from the low of intermediate 2. Down here, let's zoom in to intermediate 2 and have a look at this structure. Last time I analysed Litecoin, I was expecting a pullback to complete minute wave 2, and I expected minuet C to move at least slightly beyond the end of A at 65.97 to avoid a truncation. It wouldn't be a running flat, but it'd be a truncation, and truncations are uncommon. It hasn't done that, so I'm a little bit I think I'm just going to delete all of this and have another go at minor wave 1. What a mess. There's so much overlapping. I wonder if a leading diagonal could have been over here. Let's see if that'll fit. I'm going to delete this base channel too. That's not really working so well. I think I have to redraw a best fit channel. Okay, let's have a go at a leading diagonal, which may explain all the overlapping. So 3 is longer than 1. 5 is not longer than 3, and 4 is longer than 2. So 5 is not long enough to be a leading expanding diagonal. What if we put 1 and 2 here? Now 3 is longer than 1, but 5 is, yes, longer than 3. Okay, so this could be a leading expanding diagonal. How do the trend lines work? The trend lines are diverging. That actually looks okay. I'm just not too sure about the structure of 1. So I get people coming in on a regular basis and saying to me, Lara, in a leading diagonal, waves 1, 3 and 5 must subdivide as impulses. They cannot be zigzags. That's come from an old page of Elliott Wave International that they've left published online. It's really old, and that's how they describe the subdivisions of a leading diagonal. But in the book, Elliott Wave Principle by Frost and Prechter, which is the gold standard. It's the classic published book you can find on Elliott Wave International's website. You can find it on Amazon. In that book, it states the subwaves of a leading diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of them are most commonly zigzags, although 1, 3, and 5 may appear to be impulses sometimes. That's in the book that Prechter published, so those are the rules I'm going to go with. I haven't found any reason to rewrite those rules in my 15 years of using Elliott Waves, so that's what I'm going to use. So before someone comes in and tells me I'm subdividing this wrong, that's where I get it from. So please read the book, don't read that old page. I contacted Elliott Wave International about that, and I told them they've left that online. They said, oops, sorry, we'll fix that, and then never did. I do wish they would. It just causes a right load of annoyance. That's technical. Not. Oh, what is this? What a mess. This is probably a B wave, some kind of B wave. Could it be some kind of combination? It's not a triangle. Yeah, it could be some kind of combination. Let's have a go. Combination could be a zigzag here, and then X could be here, and then could have Y could be here. Yeah. Okay, I'll leave that. That looks okay. And so this could be a leading expanding diagonal. This meets all the rules. If that's correct, then I'd be expecting a pullback. It meets all the rules, but it doesn't have the best look, although it explains all of this overlapping upward movement. Anyway, let's first of all, what view have I got this? Yep, semi-log scale. So, and it was someone on the YouTube channel said to me, Lara, why don't you apply a logarithmic function to the Fibonacci retracements for crypto, because it might be better than just using the correctly arithmetic Fibonacci ratio. And I think that's a really good point. I learn stuff from you guys. Every now and then someone makes a comment, I'm like, oh yeah, what a good point. And so that's why I'm making sure my chart for my crypto is on a semi-log scale, and what Motive Wave then does is applies a logarithmic function to the Fibonacci ratios. And because of the extreme volatility of these markets, I think that gives us a better target for retracements. So that's going to be my expectation for the short term, but if I'm wrong, it might not be as deep. And so let's bring in a channel again around this movement. I think we might best draw it first along resistance here. Now let's try support from the start to here. Oh, it's just not, oh, that's okay. Tiny overshoot here, test of support here and here. Okay, and what about resistance? How's this going to fit? Yep, that actually looks okay. Okay, so the overthrow of resistance was the third wave. That's the strongest portion. Let's bring in MACD. Yeah, that's the strongest momentum, the third wave. Okay, so the wave count fits with MACD. This movement fits in a channel. I think for the short term for Litecoin, my bottom line is going to be, I want to see this trend line breached by a full daily candlestick below of downward movement, a red candlestick below and not touching this trend line, before I have confidence that yes, this was a leading expanding diagonal and it's being followed by a second wave correction. Second waves following leading diagonals and first wave positions are commonly really deep. So if we get a breach of this trend line, then look out for support about 60.18, the logarithmic function of the 0.618 Fibonacci ratio. Checking the invalidation point, it's actually 40.68. 2 may not move beyond the start of 1 below 40.68. I'm not going to look at the details of that on the daily chart. I'm just going to leave it on the weekly, and let's jump into some technicals. On the weekly time frame, there's a strong bullish engulfing candlestick pattern off the low of week beginning 12th of June 2022. There's a piercing pattern here for the week beginning 12th of March 2023, and there's a morning doji star here. So we've got overall off this low a series of high highs and higher lows, an upward trend. There was some push from volume a little bit in the first bullish candlestick, but it wasn't as strong as the previous bearish, although it was stronger than most of these previous weekly candlesticks. Not as clear as I'd like to see, but for a cryptocurrency, I note their past sustained lows aren't always strong immediately off the lows. Here we're starting to see some upward movement, having support from volume, and then we have this bearish candlestick that has a volume spike. But again, we're starting to see week on week an increase in volume for upward movement up to here. Most recently, volume's really dropped off, but we're still seeing stronger volume in upward weeks than we are in downward weeks. For the short term, the last 3 downward weeks, price is falling of its own weight with very strongly declining volume. So this looks like a counter trend movement. On balance, volume has a really tight range recently. I've drawn a resistance and a support line around this little range on balance volume for very, very recent movement for the last several weeks. I'd want to see a breakout of this range in order to give a signal. At the moment, if we draw this support line really carefully across these lows and this low, it's just being touched this week. So this support on balance volume might assist here to halt a fall in price. I'd watch that trend line carefully over the next couple of weeks for Litecoin. If on balance volume breaks down below it, I'd have a little bit more confidence in my short-term expectation for that deep pullback for Litecoin. But if it bounces up from here, then for the short term, my analysis of that leading diagonal could be wrong. Something else could be happening. It could be a series of overlapping first and second waves, which would actually be really bullish. ADX tells us there's an upward trend in a relatively early stage. This is a strong signal from ADX. This is a bullish signal on the weekly time frame, tells us there's an upward trend which has got a long way to go before it's extreme. RSI is neutral. There's a long way to go before that's overbought. At the low in June 2022, RSI reached oversold on the weekly time frame. That's pretty bullish. The only time it's ever done that before at this time frame was very early on in the start of Litecoin's price history. It's never done that before in a bear market for Litecoin, so this is extremely bullish. This bear market down to this low was very extreme, so it's more likely that it's probably over there. Not definitive, this is an exercise in probability, but that points to the likelihood that that's going to be a sustained low. Money flow is back in neutral territory. Money flow exhibits bearish divergence from this high, from this point to this point, this point to this point. Price has closed higher. Money flow has made a lower high. This is very strong bearish divergence with price and money flow after money flow reached reasonably overbought. So that supports the Elliott wave count that expects a relatively deep pullback. So there is some technical support for that view here. Stochastic's neutral, but the market's trending, so we use RSI, money flow and ADX. And ATR showing a little bit of an increase as price moves higher. That supports for the longer term a bullish case. There is support from volume and increasing range in that upward movement. For the very short term, I want to use the daily chart to try and answer the question, how deep is this pullback likely to go? How likely is it that my Elliott wave count expecting a pullback is correct? For the short term, there is a bearish engulfing candlestick pattern at the high, so that would support the view that there's a trend change, but that could be resolved. Candlestick reversal patterns don't tell us how long the next trend is going to last. Volume strongly pushed price higher up to the high. The most recent strong session, though, is a red candlestick, a downward session. So for the short term, within this downward movement, I would read the volume profile just within this movement as bearish. Another stronger downward session here. On balance volume would have no recent signal. You could draw a resistance line here, a support line here, but that wouldn't have good technical significance. ADX is declining. There's no clear trend. Previously it did indicate an upward trend up to the last high, and now it's declining. The DX lines are whipsawing. This is typical of consolidation. RSI is neutral. There was no bearish divergence at the daily time frame between short-term swing highs and RSI, but RSI did reach overbought. Likewise, no bearish divergence at the daily time frame between price and money flow, but there is that divergence, remember, at the weekly time frame. Stochastics is oversold. ADX indicates no clear trend, so using a model of stochastics with support and resistance, that would tell us because stochastics is oversold and price there is a bit of support around here actually. There's probably quite a bit of support here. About 85, and the low here 87. So I think price could move a little bit lower first before we see a low and a turn, and I don't see any bullish candlestick pattern here at this low. I see a strong bearish candlestick pattern here which had push from volume, and these small range candlesticks look like a pause within an ongoing larger pullback. I don't see any evidence on this chart that this pullback is done, so look out for next support at 79.95. Stochastics may remain a little oversold and close to oversold for a little while longer. There's a little ways to go before price reaches this support and indicates to us that the pullback is over. So for the short term, I think, yeah, we're probably going to see lower lows for Litecoin, but for the longer term, I'm still really bullish on this one. That's it from me with an update for Litecoin for you, and come back on Monday. I'm going to be releasing a new online course for you. So thank you all for your patience. I haven't been able to give you as much content as I would like to, but I do have some pretty cool stuff coming up for you.